Hi everyone, Chris here from IELTS Advantage with another success story. Today we have Ruchika, who recently got a band 7 in her writing test. She got band 7 twice, and we wanted to share her experience with you guys so that you can learn from her success and do well in the IELTS test yourselves. So, Ruchika, can you start off just by introducing yourself to everyone?
Yes, sir. Hello, everyone. My name is Ruchika, and I live in Jalandhar, Punjab, which is in India. And presently, I am handling my husband's business accounts, managing his books and all. And it was my husband's dream to migrate to Canada for settle down. And because of that, we took the IELTS exam. Actually, basically, he was to give the exam, but because of the business circumstances, I had to go for it. And last year in 2019, in August, we planned to give the exam. But in the very first attempt, I couldn't make it. I got 7 in listening, sorry, 7.5 in listening, 7 in reading, and 7 in writing, and 7 in speaking too. I couldn't make in the listening module. I required 8 band that time. And after my husband suggested me that I should thoroughly go through your writing formats and your other tips and tricks for the listening and reading modules also. And by following those tips and tricks, I gave the second attempt, which was on 1st of the February this year, 2020. And this time I did very well. I got 8.5 in listening and a 7.5 in reading module and 7 in writing, and in speaking also I got 7 bands.
Congratulations.
Actually, thank you so much, sir.
Excellent, excellent. And what were your biggest challenges, do you think? What were the things that you find difficult?
Actually, I was very much confused in writing module.
Hmm.
Before I took your course, I was not very much confident that I can get 7 or above bands in writing. And I very hard I was not that much hardworking that time. And but because of my husband, I followed your tips and tricks. And I just wrote my essay just like yours. I totally copied your format, how to write the discussion or opinion essays.
Hmm.
And that time I was not struggling with the writing module, but there was some complexities which was arising in front of me in the reading module.
Hmm.
Especially, I was very much struggling in the heading part.
Hmm.
And the course we bought, there were some reading tricks of you, which was provided by you. And I just followed your trick and gave myself some 2 weeks or 3 weeks to prepare myself. And by following that tricks, I make got 7.5 in reading in another
Good.
chance.
Good. So you mentioned that matching headings was difficult. That's difficult for a lot of people. So
Yes.
let's share what I teach you on the VIP course. What did you do? What technique did you use in order to get the right answer for matching headings questions?
Yes, so sir. Earlier, I used to read all the headings first and then go back to the main passages. But my trick was totally wrong. And when I followed you, then I started like, first you have to read a passage, and we just have to write down at the side what the gist of the paragraph, what the main paragraph is asking, and then follow the headings which suits the passage most. And I totally followed this trick, and I was successful, I would say.
Good. Yeah. Because if you look at all the headings first, then it can be quite confusing, and you're looking for things that
It
might not be
definitely
there.
creates chaos in the mind. It definitely, and also utilize more of our precious time, which is very, uh, you know, precious for us in IELTS exam, especially.
Yeah, and the reading test is testing your reading skills, but because it
Yes.
is a standardized test, there are certain techniques and strategies that you can learn that help you
Yes.
find the answer more effectively and also save you time. So for anyone watching that is struggling with their reading, uh, trying to understand what your actual problems are. Is it strategy? Is it vocabulary? Is it timing? And then work on those things. And
Yes,
that's
sir.
exactly what you did. And I can help you out. So apart from reading, were there any other challenges that you had?
Yes, sir, definitely. It was in the writing module
Mm-hmm.
itself. Our teachers told us that we have to write very complex sentences and we have to add so much of higher vocabulary. And I was very scared that time that how one can learn. There are, I think, abundance of words one person cannot learn at a single time.
Mm-hmm.
And it was very difficult for me to learn those vocabulary and implement those words into my essay or in letter. But when I saw your videos, uh, where you told us that we don't have to make a sentence very, very complex, just we have to write a simple sentence and we have to add, I think, I added 2 to 3 words, difficult words in my essay, I would say. Honestly, I didn't use much vocabulary.
Mm-hmm.
And this was a thing which I was impressed the most, that one don't have to cram those vocabulary. Actually, the main difficulty was we know the word meaning, but we don't know how to use those words into a sentence.
Exactly.
And yes, this creates a mess in our essay, and we sometimes use the wrong word into a wrong, sentence.
Yeah, I think because a lot of people misunderstand what the examiners are looking for. The number one thing that the examiners are looking for is, did you clearly answer the question? And
Yes,
using complex vocabulary and complex grammar is hindering you, is stopping you clearly answering the question. Grammar is important, vocabulary is important, but the solution is not to cram in as much complex vocabulary and
yes,
structures
sir.
and things as possible, because that leads to two things. Number one, you're not answering the question, and number two, you're making more mistakes, and the more mistakes you make in general, the lower your score is going to be.
Yes, sir.
So and it's, I'm glad you listened to me, because it's, a
Yes,
lot of students do not want to follow that advice because it's the opposite advice to what they think is effective. Because you think, if you fail the test, you think, I need to make things more complicated, more complex. And then I
yes,
tell you the opposite, which is, no, make it simpler. And many students don't want to do that because they're afraid that won't
yes,
work. But every single success story that we talk to, they say the same thing. When we made things simpler, easier to understand, focused on answering the question, then our scores went up. We got the
yes.
scores that we need.
One thing I would also say, which impressed me the most, was be limited with your ideas. Actually,
Mm-hmm.
here teachers told us you have to write 3 to 4 ideas in a single passage. But when I watched your videos, it was totally the opposite. And I really liked the idea that just go for 2 to 3 ideas, actually 2 ideas in a single essay, and describe and explain them vividly. So I would suggest all of the students that they must follow this advice also.
Mm-hmm.
Like they don't write 2 ideas or 4 ideas in a single passage. It won't mean anything.
Mm-hmm.
So I would suggest that please write limited.
Yeah, one idea in a paragraph is fine. The key is to develop those ideas
Develop ideas.
by explaining why those ideas answer the question, by supporting those ideas with evidence in the form of examples.
Yes.
So, for example, an opinion essay where, I agree or disagree. If you agree, just pick 2 ideas, put one of them in the first main body paragraph, second one in the second main body paragraph, and fully develop each of those, so you just have one idea in one paragraph,
With examples.
which is with examples, with explanations, which is, unfortunately, some students are taught to do the opposite, which is to just list, I agree because firstly this, secondly this, thirdly this, finally this, which means that you don't develop any of your ideas. Which is, if you don't
Yes,
believe me, look at the marking criteria that the
yes,
examiners use. They say that in there.
yes, sir.
Good stuff. And I think for you, for someone like you, just figuring out those small things, like, I need to limit the number of ideas, and I need to simplify my vocabulary and
Vocabulary.
focus on accurate grammar rather than complicated grammar. Just fixing those things increases your score immediately if you learn how
Yes.
to do those things, instead of trying to learn lists of fancy vocabulary and add lots of ideas in. Just focusing on your weak areas and fixing those is the way to do it. So thank you so much for providing that advice to the students. And is there any last minute advice that you would give people?
Yes, one more advice from my side is, like, most of this I have read so many essays, and students used to write background statement of a particular essay,
Mm-hmm.
and which I think is not at all required.
No.
So, and this definitely wastes a lot of time for the students also.
Mm-hmm.
And I would say there is no need to write those background statements. Just start down with your paraphrasing and then your thesis and rest.
Yeah, I mean, if you add a background statement to the beginning of your essay, it doesn't lower your score so much, but it is a waste of time. So
Waste of
why would you write something that isn't contributing to your score? So how we teach our students is every single word should do something in the essay, should have a purpose. And the other dangerous thing about background statements is that students will sometimes memorize phrases and put them
Yes.
in, like, nowadays such and such is a very controversial topic, and the examiners see that every single day
This
over
has
and over and
monotony to an
over and
essay.
over again.
Definitely.
And often people will make mistakes even when they're writing memorized phrases down, which just indicates to the examiner that you don't know how to write in English, because someone who knows how to write an essay doesn't have to memorize phrases and background statements and things like that. They can just write naturally, which is what they're trying to test for. They're not testing your memory, they're testing your writing ability in English. So that's a very, very good point. So thank you so much for sharing your experience and sharing your success with everybody else. And I wish you the best of luck in the future. Once the whole coronavirus thing is solved, I hope it is solved soon. And then you'll be able to use your high scores to move to the country of your dreams.
Definitely, sir. Thank you
Thank you.
so much.
Thank you so much, Ruchika. And if you need anything in the future, just let me know.
Sure, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Hey, Chris here again. Hopefully you enjoyed that success story video. That student was part of our IELTS VIP course. And on that course, we show students exactly where they're going wrong and exactly what to do to get the score that they need. And we give them all the help and support that they need in order to get a 7, 8, or even 9 in their IELTS test. Now, we only work with a really, really small number of students. Because of the level of help and feedback and support that we give students, we can only work with a very, very small number of them. But we also have more success stories than any other online or offline course in the world, which has created a huge amount of demand for our course. So we're the only course in the world, I believe, that has a very, very, very long waiting list. If you want to join that waiting list, all you have to do is just click here and you'll be able to add your name, add your email address, and then when one of our students becomes successful and leaves the course, the next position can be for you. Hopefully see you in there. Bye-bye.